How do I get my Netflix to stop buffering? How do I get my YouTube to stop buffering? These are pretty common questions that I get all the time, and the answer is you don't. In fact, you don't want to. Pretty confused? Well, the truth is we got buffering all twisted. So today, let's talk about all things buffering and show you different ways to get that awesome streaming experience. Let's do this.
It's the Techie guy, yeah.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Liron Segev, where I talk about Wi-Fi and gadget and tech tips and phones and how to. If you're into that kind of stuff, hit that subscribe button below and let's get on to today's show. So as I said at the beginning, you actually do want buffering, and here's why. Look at buffering this way. You get into your car, you look ahead of the car, and there is no road. As you switch on the car, a road magically starts to build a couple of yards just in front of your car. As you start going, you're driving on a beautiful road. It continuously being built just ahead of your car. So what happens when your car is actually driving faster than the road in front of you is being built? Well, you get to a certain point, there is no more road. You have to stop and wait whilst that next section of the road is being built. Same thing happens when we're trying to stream our movie. As we push the play button, what happens? The software goes out there and prefetches a whole bunch of data and loads it into the memory's buffer. There it waits for the device's processing to take over and then translate that data into the beautiful movie that you're about to watch. This is called buffering, and you do want buffering. What you don't want is for buffering to fail. What does that mean? It means you're watching faster than it's able to preload and prefetch that data, so you get to a point where you've actually caught up. That's when you see that spinning wheel, and now you have to wait. Okay, so why do videos actually buffer or don't buffer? Well, typically it boils down to the lack of bandwidth. You see, what happens, you're watching your video at such a high rate that your network has run out of bandwidth to prefetch that next bit. What can you do about it? Well, let me show you. Direct cable or a split cable? Now, this is one that a lot of people actually miss. Go outside your house, find the cable from your ISP. It typically will go into a box, and from that box up into the roof or the attic. Now from there, is there one cable going straight from there straight into your modem, or is there a splitter? Now this is very common, especially in older houses or in places where perhaps your modem was in one room and then you asked to be moved to another room. They would typically leave that splitter on with lots of cables just going absolutely everywhere. That all can degrade your signal, especially when you're running both your internet and your cable TV, for example, over one coax cable. Big mistake, ask to run two cables if you're still getting two services from that same service provider. Reboot your router and reboot your modem. When was the last time you did that? You see, those devices are essentially mini computers, and that needs a good old power cycle every once in a while. When these things are running, they're loading lots of things into memory, into processors, into cache. Lots of temporary files are being created, allowing it to operate. When you do a nice shutdown, a nice reboot, it cleans all that out, allowing it to run more efficiently. A reboot makes a huge difference. Okay, you've got to go wired over wireless whenever it's possible. Look, we know that wired connection is the most stable, the most reliable, the fastest connection you're going to get. But remember, not all LAN cables are the same. You have to go look at the little markings written on the cable itself, because that will have an impact on the speed. Now, do a quick Google search on the various CAT types of cable that you get to make sure that you're getting the one that's right for you. But remember to also look at the LAN port on your router and see what that's set to. Some of the older routers are only set to 100 megabits per second, where some of the new ones are at gigabits. So if you are going to use wireless, please make sure you're using the 5 gigahertz, not the 2.4 gigahertz. The reason for it, we know 5 gigahertz means faster speed at shorter distances to the router, 2.4 gigahertz, slower speed but at much further distance. So whenever possible, use that 5 gigahertz. Okay, so what happens if you need to use wireless but is just out of reach of that Wi-Fi, or it's getting very, very little signal from that Wi-Fi? Well, what you can do is use a range extender or a booster or a repeater. Pretty much these are used interchangeably these days. And what that does is it amplifies that signal and boosts that signal into that room. Now, the big secret is, and the big mistake that people are making, is that they're taking their range extender and put it at the very, very edge of where the signal actually ends. And therefore, it can only amplify a very tiny portion of that Wi-Fi signal. What you want to do is put it to a point where it's still a nice strong signal, let it amplify and repeat and boost a nice strong fast signal. If you're going to buy yourself a router, please make sure that you perhaps look at something like a mesh Wi-Fi system. A mesh is essentially the next evolution of Wi-Fi. It works in such a way that you have lots of dots around the house. The dots are able to talk to each other, they're able to route traffic intelligently between them, and therefore giving you the best viewing experience. Now, I'm not going to go into details. I've done a couple of videos about mesh, and there'll be a link in the description below. Go and check it out, but definitely a possibility. Okay, let's talk about the guest Wi-Fi network. Now, what I like to do is I like to enable my guest Wi-Fi and I move all my non-essential devices onto that, especially things like window shades and smart plugs and some of the lights. If you're finding that you're having these buffering issues, disable the guest network. That will automatically disconnect those non-essential items, giving you all that bandwidth back into your network. When you're done, simply switch it back on again, those items reconnect, and then you got that good viewing experience. Okay, so whilst we all want to stream in beautiful, stunning 4K, getting all that amazing viewing experience, well, if we're having buffering issue, a very quick and simple tip to do is to reduce the quality to something like 1080 Full HD. Realistically, a lot of us are not really going to be able to tell that much difference, but what it does do is reduce the load on the network. It reduces the file sizes and the data packets that have to come flooding through to fill in that beautiful 4K resolution. Now you can do that on Netflix, you can do that on YouTube, and it's pretty simple to do. And if you're having that buffering issue, it's a very quick fix, just to simply move the traffic along. You've got to go look into your router settings and see whether you have something called QoS, quality of service, prioritization. And essentially what that does is it allows you to give certain traffic, certain types of data, priority over other types of data. So for example, if you're sending email, does it really make a difference whether it leaves your mailbox, a second later or 30 seconds later? Not really. But if you're trying to watch a movie, does it make a difference if it starts to pause every 30 seconds? Absolutely. So by using QoS, you can prioritize your smart TV, your Android box, your PlayStation, whatever you're streaming on, prioritize that over your other applications. Now, a lot of people connect to their streaming service using a VPN. Now, when you do that, when you connect to your VPN, the first thing that it does, it looks for the best connections for you. The problem is a lot of people are not disconnecting from their VPN, therefore it keeps you connected to what was the best service at that time. Services change, things get congested, so the best thing to do with the VPN is disconnect for your VPN, wait for a couple of seconds, then reconnect again. It may connect you to an even faster service and therefore help you with that streaming or that buffering issues. Obviously, make sure that your antivirus is always updated. One of the fastest way to lose your bandwidth is that when you have some sort of rogue malware on your system, you might not notice it, but it's sucking up all that available bandwidth. And make sure that you have antivirus on your mobile phones and your tablet as well. Of course, you want to make sure that everything else is being updated as well. Your smart TV, your Android streaming boxes, your PlayStation, all of those have software updates as well. Go into the settings, look for those updates, and make sure that your system is constantly up to date. Not only will that help with the bandwidth and the streaming issues, but it's going to help with a whole bunch of other bugs and fixes and security issues. So make sure you don't neglect those devices. So this is an oldie but a goodie. I used to use this a lot when I was out in South Africa. I used to start watching a video and then push pause. What I did is allow the buffer to actually get filled up so that by the time I was ready to watch again, I knew that that buffer was full and that viewing experience was so much better. Okay, so that was a lot of information. Hopefully you found something that could help you there. Let me know in the comments below. Check out a lot more tips and tricks about Wi-Fi and mesh routers and all that good stuff down here. Hit the head below to subscribe if this is your first time here. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I'll see you in those videos. Let's go.